Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, carrying out your charitable wishes forever, whether it's helping shelter animals, feeding the homeless, enhancing the arts, or supporting students. Learn more at leaveabequest.org.
Happy New Year, everyone. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Today is a bittersweet day for the Another View family. Over the holiday break, we received the sad news that our dear friend and colleague, Carol Pretlow, died. Carol was an Another View original. She brought her wit, wisdom, and insight to the round table from the very beginning when Another View was on television, and easily transitioned with us to radio. On today's show, we pay tribute to a beautiful soul who loved life. Join us in our tribute by calling 757-440-2665. Another View will be right back.
Discussing today's topics from an African-American perspective, this is Another View.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Happy New Year, and we just finished listening to the funeral service for President Jimmy Carter, and it's amazing, but we're actually going to also be celebrating another life here today on Another View. We've been away from you for about 2 weeks in our holiday break, and during that time, we learned, unfortunately, that an original member of the Another View Roundtable, Carol Pretlow, passed away. So on today's show, we celebrate the life of Professor Pretlow with our current roundtable pundits. Dr. Alvian Lyons specializes in human behavior, is a consultant to corporations and other organizations. She's also an author and a podcaster and an all-around. My sister, how are you?
I am good.
Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to all of my sisters. We are off to quite a start.
Yes, we are.
Mm-hmm.
We absolutely are. Dawn Hester is a career politician and educator and serves as treasurer for the city of Norfolk. Happy New Year, Dawn.
And Happy New Year to you and all my sisters and everybody else.
Thank you for being here. She's the community connector of the group. Gayleen Knoyton is a political consultant, creator of Celebrate Healthcare, president of the Hampton NAACP. I could go on and on. Happy New Year, Gayleen. And we're glad you're with us because we missed you last month.
Oh, no. Happy New You all.
And Allison Moore is a clean comedian, HR specialist, and now adjunct professor with Virginia Wesleyan University. How you doing? Happy New Year, Allison.
Hey, y'all. Hey. Happy New Year, everybody.
Absolutely. So our dear sister and friend, Carol, passed away since during the Christmas holidays, and we want to celebrate her life. We're going to start with a piece by Lisa Godley.
It's hard to even speak when someone who touched our lives so significantly leaves us. That was Carol Pretlow. Carol had been a respected voice on the Another View Roundtable since its inception on television in 2009. And when we transitioned to radio, Carol came with us and remained an insightful and engaging part of our Another View family for 15 years. During her many trips to WHRO, she was usually greeted by WHRO receptionist Deborah Clark, who remembers her this way.
Dr. Pretlow was always kind and compassionate and caring to me, and she had such a beautiful spirit. She always had the same demeanor when I saw her. I enjoyed our talks when she came to the station, and she truly loved what she did. She talked about her NSU students and how remarkable they are. She had a quiet strength about her. She will be missed, and she truly was a hero among us.
It was Carol's vast knowledge of the world of politics that brought her to us, and it was that broad knowledge that she shared with her students for close to 40 years at Norfolk State University, teaching political science and world affairs to hundreds. Deborah Elliott was one of them.
She just was very into us as students. She was willing to help us to get our degrees. She just mentored all of us as we needed her after hours. If we needed to talk, she just sat there when class was over and just talked to us, just like a mom, a mentor. She just loved on us. She took several students to New York, the ones that were ready to go on to be lawyers. She had her past students come in to talk to us. She also had other political people come in to talk to us about different things and just how we should, when we do study law or do go into politics, how we are to focus on things and how we are to research things. She just was so professional.
Often describing herself as a country girl from Smithfield, Carol Pretlow was much more. She graduated from Georgie Tyler High School in 1965 at the age of 16. She would go on to graduate from Fisk University with a BA in political science. New Journal and Guide Chief Reporter Emeritus Leonard Colvin says, Carol's path would veer slightly, leading her to work as a fashion writer, a poet, and a model, but would eventually bring her to an SU.
Before she got to Norfolk State, she tried to compile as much experience in the real world relative to civil rights and thinking and education as she could. She got to NSU in 1986, and William P. Robinson took her under his wing and taught her how to run a class and engage the students, get them talking and get them debating. And that was basically her format throughout her teaching career at Norfolk State University.
Carol would earn an MA in Mass Communications from Norfolk State and later a JD in International Law from American University.
And it was an advanced degree. That's how she wrote all those secret documents and talking papers for the Defense Department. She had a degree in international law.
Her vast knowledge would net her engagements to share her expertise as an adjunct professor at the National Defense University Joint Forces Staff College and at the W.E.B. Du Bois Institute for African American Studies at Harvard University. Carol never hesitated to speak her mind, be it a one-on-one conversation or in another View broadcast. For example, during this 2003 roundtable discussion, she quickly shared her take on a member of Congress yelling out during the president's State of the Union address.
And I was like, okay, girlfriend, the first line of defense is always to act with class. You have the responsibility, this is my mom saying, to act with class even when others do not. So you don't have to agree with him, but do respect the fact that he is President of the United States.
Dr. Carol Pretlow left her mark on this region and her country, not only through her own work, but through the many students she mentored who are now impacting their communities, this nation, and the world. She will truly be missed, but her legacy and what she poured into so many will live on. For Another View, I'm Lisa Godley.
You know, I can just see Carol sitting here. You know, and the thing is, as we were doing research, about the many facets of Carol Pretlow, oh my gosh, she actually wrote for the New Journal and Guide. She was a reporter, and she reported on fashion. And, you know, she was always dressed to the nines. All right. So I want to start with just getting some feedback and reaction from you guys. Let's start with you this time, Allison.
I'm going to miss Dr. Pretlow. She was definitely what I call gang. She would say, I was like, oh my, she would have me clutching pearls with the things that she said when I first started on the show. And she was like really lit. But one of the things that I know about her impact, first of all, I'm a Spartan. So I graduated from Norfolk State, but I wasn't poli-sci. And so when I started to do the show, some of my fellow Spartans or people in my fan group would be like, oh, you up there with Dr. Pretlow, girl, that was my girl. You don't remember Dr. Pretlow? So that was pretty cool. People remember her. And then she started to have me come to her students in their classes, and I built relationships with her students. And so that her legacy is wide and deep. It reaches pretty far. But my takeaways from her is just how she was reading people. Like Dr. Pretlow knew how to reach. And with class, and she was super smart. So I'm gonna miss her.
Absolutely. Gayleen, what do you think?
I've known Dr. Pretlow for a long time, but we really became engaged with the Obama election. I mean, she was out there, full force out there. And she made sure her students were involved politically. She made sure they understood what was at stake. I mean, she poured a lot into her students, and her passion was there. And she would just, I mean, I would have panels, or anytime I needed have discussions, and I wanted her to be involved in it, she was always there. You know, and she was always. And then one thing about she didn't drive, right?
No, she did not.
Which was like, how did she get everywhere?
So everybody was her Uber driver before there was an Uber.
And she would tell, "Oh, you need to take me to campus."
Yes,
I'm like,
absolutely.
Yeah, so she was wonderful.
She actually had a taxi driver in Norfolk who would come get her on a regular basis to bring her to the station. And, you know, that was Uber before Uber.
Yeah.
You know?
We were all Uber drivers.
Yes, absolutely. Dawn, you're an educator. I know that connects with you, with her from that educational perspective in terms of influencing and impacting young people's lives.
Very much so. And I think that's a large part of her legacy, because her students knew that she cared for them, and they would do anything, one, for her. But she also made sure that they knew and discovered a lot of things just about life, about politics, about how to move forward. She really taught them how to navigate and how to debate, which is so important.
Yes.
I want to, Will Leviste, who was one of the original roundtable members, is on the phone. He's in the airport, so we might have a little bit of trouble, but he did want to call in to give us his thoughts. Hey, Will, how are you? Happy New Year. Will? No, I guess we don't have him. Okay, we'll come back to that then. Before I go to you, Alvian, let me throw out the phone number 757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Those are the numbers to call. We really would love to hear from you, audience. If you had a personal relationship with Carol Pretlow, if you loved hearing her on Another View, if you'd just like to express your condolences, we want to hear from you. 757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Do we have Will or not? We do not have him. Okay. Alvian, what do you think?
Well, to Allison's point about sometimes Carol would have you clutching your pearls. It was her sincerity that resonated more than anything else. There was just nothing fraudulent about Carol. You knew exactly who she was. And I say Carol because she was a sister to all of us. That is in no way to make small all the enormous accomplishments that her life represented. But it is, even that is so consistent with who she was, that she was not the measure of her accomplishments. She was a measure of her character. Yeah. And so when you met her, you met the content of the woman, not the accomplishments of the woman. They were so in our day and age, when everybody gets puffed up because they, finished elementary school, it is so, they're running around like, I graduated top of my 6th grade class. It's just, we're in a world that is just so anti-academic and so impressed with very little, quite frankly. She's quite the opposite of that. She did so much, but acted like you met her on the playground in 3rd grade.
That is very, very true.
And that, it was just beautiful.
Lisa, I'm trying to understand. Do we have Will, or is he gone, or what's the deal? We do not have him. Okay. We were hoping that we would catch him before he had to jump on a plane to fly off. But speaking of the fact that Carol never let you know kind of how much she did.
Accomplished. Yeah.
So under the auspices of Norfolk State University's Office of Sponsored Programs, Carol Pretlow authored and edited 3 classified publications for the United States Defense Intelligence Agency. Who knew?
Who exactly?
She specialized in Israeli-Palestinian relations. And did things across the country and internationally in terms of that. nobody knew.
No.
You know, because she was just so genuine. I met Carol originally back in the 90s when I was news director at News 3. And I saw her actually being interviewed for a political story that was going on at the time. And I was like, wow, who is this woman? Because during that time, especially, the only people who were talking about politics primarily were white men. And Carol was on it, you know, and so that's how I met her, and then became more engaged. And so when we started Another View, there was a no-brainer that in terms of, you know, who we needed to get onto the show. Let's see, our audience is calling. Nathan is joining us. I'm not quite sure from where, but Nathan, how are you? No,
Hello, Bob.
Hey, Nathan.
I'm on my way back to Maryland and always tuning in to your show, and found out about Dr. Pretlow's passing online and was just devastated. I didn't realize she was sick, you know. But I've been listening. I think it's the quote from Mark Twain that kind of exemplifies her character. He said, "Don't let your schooling get in the way of your education."
Right.
And he had great education, but like the lady said previously, she was a very humble person, and one of the first professors who invited me into a classroom at a college level to recite poetry. This is long before I became known as Frederick Douglass. So she was one of the rungs on the ladder that I've been climbing all these years as a historian. So I certainly wanted to call in and say how much she was appreciated by me and by the community.
We appreciate that. That's Nathan Richardson, who is well known as Frederick Douglass. And Carol has impacted people just across the board. You know, she was one of a kind, and she always looked out for others. So, for example, Carol, talking about not having a car, riding the public transportation, and she was robbed. And someone found her wallet and returned it.
Wow.
And she went to a state news station and asked them to do a story to thank that person. I mean, you know, she was always pushing forward, Don.
She was always pushing forward and so considerate, so inconspicuous. However, downtown she was known as the book lady.
Yes.
You know, because she was, when I would take her from here, from the show, I'd take her to the mall, MacArthur, and she would go read books, buy books. She always had books. And then when it closed at MacArthur, she went over to the other one. She was always in a store buying books, reading books, sharing books.
Yeah, you know, one thing she told me once, I asked her, I said, Carol, I said, do you ever think that you will get married or, you know, be in a relationship or whatever? And she said, you know what my ideal relationship would be? I would love to have a partner who would have a condo right next to mine. And in the mornings, we would drink coffee and read the New York Times. And then he could go his way and I could go my way. And in the evening, we could come back and we could have another cup of coffee and say goodnight.
All right now.
Oh, we did get Will to call in. Hello, Will. How are you? And Happy New Year.
Hey, Happy New Year, Barbara. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you this time.
Ed, I was listening to you, and that is classic Carol. And what I loved and appreciated about it is that she's a one-of-a-kind character, very comfortable in her own skin. And as a woman, you know, from a man's perspective, to hear those kinds of stories was just, you know, this is a phenomenal woman.
Right.
You know,
Absolutely.
and great role model. And that's something I really appreciate. I can remember one time I was hanging out in Norfolk with my daughter, who at the time was going to the Governor's School of the Arts. And we were just hanging out, I think, between class, and we ran into Carol. And we just went from there to sitting down, having coffee, and she was sharing with my daughter and just talking with her and bestowing wisdom. And that's the kind of person that she was. So I, as a male, because I know y'all all beautiful women in there, appreciate you letting me join your club for a second. But
A second.
Man, you know, yeah, a second. I absolutely
appreciated Carol for that type of story that you just told.
Yeah.
That you just told Barbara that was who she was, and you know, if you can't handle that as a man, then you just need to keep stepping.
Exactly. You know what, Will, real quick before you run off, if you got a moment, can you talk about what it was like, especially if you remember, because you also were one of the originals in terms of our roundtable. What was it like being with Carol? Because she was the only woman with you, Roger, and Bill Thomas.
Well, it was knowing that, you see, because I'm a northern gentleman.
Lord Jesus, help us.
You know, I'm just enjoying being here. And if you notice, Barbara, I don't think I ever disagreed with her. And if I did, I wouldn't show it, right? Because I enjoyed disagreeing with Roger and, of course, Bill and getting on their nerves.
That's a good one.
That, you know, she was an ally, and often the things that she shared and her thoughts process was very much, reasonable, and as a lot of you have already shared, very authentic and frank and to the point. So I really loved and appreciated, her as a strong, intelligent woman with her thoughts and sensitivities, yet, very much a Southern woman, Southern charm, Southern sophistication. So, no, I really appreciated it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Will, for taking the time. We know you got to go jump on a plane. We wish you safe travels, and we'll talk real soon.
Hey, appreciate you all. Thank you.
All righty. Take care. Bye-bye.
Is he flying on a jet?
Yeah, he's flying on a jet. 757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. If you were a student of Carol Pretlow, give us a call. Give us your thoughts. 757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. So Carol started as a newspaper reporter in the 60s while she was in high school.
Wow.
And thank you, Leonard Colvin, who is a reporter emeritus from the New Journal Guide, who sent me a bunch of articles that she wrote. She also grew up in Smithfield, and she started at the Smithfield Times. She went to the Smithfield Times and said, you know what, you guys need to do a fashion column. And they did. And she started writing for it and so forth. Bill Thomas has joined us. 757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Is Bill, I'm not quite sure which line is it. Bill Thomas? No? Yes?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Bill. How are you?
Life is beautiful.
Happy New Year.
Oh, Happy New Year to you. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Your thoughts on Carol?
I don't even know where to start. I just don't know where to start. What a lovely human being. I've known Carol for so long, and she is the epitome of an American. And let me tell you this two ways. She understood the struggle, because she was a participant in the struggle, because we're about the same age. And so she understood how we were not treated as real Americans, but we got by it. And we got by it by not relying upon anybody but our faith in God, our families, and incredibly the love for America. And it didn't matter how we were treated. We just knew, because how we were raised, if we lived in a godly life, and I'm not trying to put it in any kind of religious perspective, but as a value that our families had, we could always get along. I always considered her a sister. Even though we vehemently sparred.
Woo, that's to put it mildly.
Go ahead, Bill.
You know what she always did?
What?
She always listened.
Yeah.
And then what she agreed with, which is what we all do as Americans, or should do as Americans, she didn't write me off. She said, Bill, I hear and I don't agree with what you're saying on some of these things, But on a lot of things later on in our relationship, she's come and told me, but one time, and I almost passed out, Bill, you know, on a lot of things, you were 100% correct. And a lot of things, you were 100% wrong. But the way you did it and the way that you just fought for Black people, the way that you defended the institutions that you were associated with, the way you treated the people you lived among, and the greatest thing you ever did that I always will be very proud of you is you put your mouth and your behind and your family where the trouble was.
Yeah.
Because we literally moved into the inner city in Norfolk. I won't go through a whole bunch of that stuff. But through that stint, which I didn't think would be that difficult, we were able to smell poverty. We could see the lack of resources that our people were deliberately denied, but expected to achieve like everybody else did. And no matter how tough and strong that my position was, she gave me the respect. And I gave her the respect. And we were always that kind of tie. So we were family. And we didn't get into all this stuff about, you know, Democrats, Republicans, this and that, and what we had lost and what we had gained and all those kinds of things. Our position was we did it before under tougher circumstances.
Well, and we can do it again.
And so we can and must do it again and stop arguing among each other while our people, the majority, too many of us, are suffering. And she said, I will agree with you every time on that. We have to fight for who we really are, what we really are, and we can't depend on no man, no government to do what got us through the real struggle. So that's why I loved her dearly, and that's why I loved to spar with her, and she wouldn't back up and I wouldn't back up. But, you know, every time we left that room, we went out in hand.
There you go. Thank you, Bill, for calling in. We really appreciate it, and we will connect with you again real soon. You take care, and Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, same to you.
Okay.
God bless you for having this program for her.
Thank you. All right. If you're just joining us, we're celebrating the life of Another View pundit, Carol Pretlow, who passed away after the Christmas week, or passed away Christmas week. Our guests are Another View Roundtable pundits Alvian Lyons, Dawn Hester, Gayleen Canoyton, and Allison Moore. We invite you to call us with your Carol memories, 757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. I think Sultan is joining us from Norfolk. Hi, Sultan. You're on the air.
Hey, Happy New Year, everyone. How you guys doing today?
Oh, we're doing good. Happy New Year.
Yeah, thank you for doing this this show dedicated to Dr. Pretlow. My fondest memory of her was back in 2009, freshly separated from a full career in the Navy. Thought I was a pretty good writer, and her class, her history class, was one of the first that I took at Norfolk State, and I, thought I was a good writer. Put together a paper at the last minute, turned it in, and I thought, okay, even with a half worth of effort, I'd probably walk out of there with an A. Well, lo and behold, after she read the paper, she called me up. She said, "Young man," which of course, I said, "Wait, I'm almost 37, but I'll take that." She said, I believe you handed me your draft."
That's the read. Clutch pearls.
That's clutch your pearls.
I'm gonna give it back to you and give you one extra day for you to turn in your real paper.
So, Sultan, were you up all night preparing your real paper?
Up all night, and I give her all the credit for being the solid writer that I am today.
Thank you so much for sharing that story with us, and Happy New Year to you.
That's a good one.
That is classic Carol,
100%,
right?
100%.
So can you guys talk a little bit about her fashion? I mean, she would show up dressed to the nines.
Always.
And casual, dressy, it didn't matter. Things were just.
She was always
Dawn, go ahead.
coordinated. She always. You know, and I can only imagine, what her closet looked like. You know how we talk about each other's sisters and, you got this, you got that. I'm like, what else can she pull out?
I don't think I've ever seen her wear the same thing twice.
Right.
Exactly.
It was always different.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever.
I tell you. And the thing was, too, she never talked about how old she was.
Ever.
So, but she wore things that younger people wore, that mature people wore. I mean, she was just that's the word.
She was timeless.
Timeless. I got some fashion tips from her. What about you, Allison?
I mean, yeah, definitely. I was like, "Oh, can I have that, Dr. Pretlow?" Girl, this is older than you. So.
Oh, gosh. 757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Eric joins us from Norfolk. Hi, Eric. You're on the air.
Good afternoon. How you all doing today?
We're doing good.
All right. Thank you much for having this show. I was a former student of hers at Norfolk State, and she was my academic advisor. They had a great relationship with her, and also used to work at the bookstore at MacArthur as well as Norfolk State Bookstore. So I always had a stack of books for her, going through magazines and things like that. It was always great talking to her about current affairs and anything that was current. So, it was just she was a joy and a treat to me, and very encouraging throughout my career there, in and out the bookstore and in and out in life, period.
Oh, that's fantastic. Eric, thanks so much for calling and sharing your sentiments about Carol. And Happy New Year to you. So Carol was from Smithfield, and apparently the Pretlow family is very prominent in that area, and she always gave back. As a matter of fact, she wrote memoirs and little stories about her life as a country girl, as she said, not me. Going forward. So what I'd like to do is give you guys one last opportunity to say something about Carol, and then we're going to move on to a couple of other topics that I just want to get your opinions on, because it's the round table. So, Gayleen.
She left a legacy. She left a legacy with everyone that she met. She left a legacy with her students, and she'll never be forgotten. And she's definitely, it's to me, it is all in line with we lost Nikki Giovanni. She's on that same level, that same level. So when she spoke, we listened. And you never knew what would come out of her mouth, but however, it was good, and and we'll miss her. I'll miss her.
Dawn,
you remember that day we went here?
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna say the word.
Okay.
I know. We were all talking about
that. Was my thought.
And she used the N word.
Yes,
she said the word, and we were all big-eyed.
Clutched by the pearls.
But that was only half of it, because then after that, you responded what her response was. Yes. That was the A word following the N word.
Yes. That was a day we were like, oh, Lord, what's going to happen? Are we really going to be able to air this one? Or are we going to have to bleep it? But it was so funny. She was just herself, and she was telling a story that was meaningful to her and became meaningful to us.
Absolutely.
And so that was her life. And she can't be replaced in that class.
She was like, Urkel, did I do that?
I remember getting off the air that day and running straight to Heather, Vice President of Content, and going, okay, is the FCC going to give us a fine? What do we and we knew that we could possibly edit it for airing later, but nope, because it was in context.
It was.
It was very much in context with an experience
moment.
That she had as a young child growing up in Smithfield. It was not a pleasant experience. But she told it like it was. It was raw.
Like it was.
It was raw. It was raw.
And she did that all of her life.
Absolutely.
She just told us
how it was for sure. Allison.
I'm gonna miss that lady. I appreciate the doors that she opened. Like I said, she had me in her classroom. She opened for me she's like, these students need to hear from you, and it started something. So her legacy, I'm definitely gonna follow through on that.
Fantastic. And Albion?
I mean, Carol was amazing and a force of nature. The thing that I think I will probably walk away with always, and I'm going to try not to get emotional.
Oh, who cutting the onions?
But she made very clear that as women, we're more than what you see.
Mm-hmm.
We are more than what you hear, but we darn sure are everything you feel. And Carol left you with a very distinct feeling.
Absolutely. Absolutely. She did.
Dang, girl, you made it thug.
You know, the thing too, then, and one last comment, because even in her passing, she is still promoting Another View.
Sure.
Because as I was doing my research and, looking back in her life and all of that, and as I'm reading article after article after article after article, it always said she was a part.
It's wonderful up in here, everybody.
How
because
do
there's so
I
much love.
It is.
Say goodbye. There's so much love for someone
Honestly.
who guided us, mentored us.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
And we're doing those same things ourselves
Absolutely.
as women. And we
Absolutely.
hope that everybody else that's listening would do the same thing in your
It's
sphere of
it's
influence.
just so impactful to understand.
Yes.
We do this, and this is my job, but at the same time, for me, it's a passion and a mission, and to see it have an impact the way that it is, and because of you all, it's phenomenal. So
Pour out a little.
Yep. Absolutely.
Water.
Okay, so with that, and we're gonna all wipe our eyes, and then So Albion, I want to ask you a question, because I always can throw something at you that I didn't even tell you ahead of time.
Let's do it.
But I really would love you to talk about, as we approach this inaugural day that is coming, and the next 4 years that are coming. Help us to understand how we need to process everything that we hear. And here's my example. So yesterday, in the news, we hear that the incoming president wants to take over Panama, make Canada the 51st state,
And
rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. I mean, at one point, I just bursted out laughing, because I was like, how much, when do we know what to pay attention to and take seriously, and what do we need to kick out the door? Because if we take everything in, we're going to implode.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So what's so perfect about what you're asking me is consistent with sort of this new year, what we have to do differently as humans. Mel Robbins has a book out right now called The Let Them Theory. It is a fantastic read.
Okay.
What the theory speaks to is the illusion of control that we try as humans to maintain about almost all things. Our commitment to, our pursuit of certainty around things that we will never control. So what she speaks to is the importance of us being able to get to a place where we can say and acknowledge, let them. That is to say that humans are going to do what humans do. We have to be able to accept that that is what they're going to do. But she goes into the book to speak to, but if you only say let them about all things, you can become very self-righteous, as if those people over there doing the foolishness, let them be idiots, right? That will only get you to alone and isolation if you do it by itself. But the next part of that responsibility is, so then let me. So you're going to let people do what they do. You can let them say what they say. It does not have to erode who you are or your peace. The question then becomes the thing that you do own. Let me. What am I personally going to do given the knowledge of who they have exhibited themselves to be by their action, behavior, choices, conversation, whatever that is? And when we think about that in the larger scheme of things, because politics is just big people, that's all it is, right? So the small people we do every day, I don't mean small in terms of value, I'm talking about the little interactions one by one are not really any different than the big interaction with the political world that we navigate. all of that is really the same thing. It's the seed in the forest. It's all the same thing, just the size of it. How we maintain psychological safety around all of the things that are coming at us like drinking from a fire hose. And this is just the beginning. It takes us to a place of personal responsibility for what we're going to do for ourselves to stay in healthy spaces. Because the minute that that becomes who we are on the inside, all of our fears, concerns, worries, and stresses around what we are digesting, if we take that in as us, that then means that as vessels, when we pour out, we will pour out the same dirty water we just took in. And it is our job to maintain our own filtration system, that what comes in cannot be what goes out. So if we say let them, we were releasing it to belong to who it came from. The let me is the personal ownership for who will I be relative to the world. The global thing that I'm responsible for in my local relationships. Who am I going to be? Because that's actually the only thing that we control. And it works with our kids, because some of us have adult children, some of us have teenagers, some of us have 9-year-olds driving us crazy. It doesn't matter. It works with our kids. It works with family members. It works with friends. It works with colleagues. It works in business environments. And it actually works with politics too. Sometimes you got to unplug from it, because the 24-hour news cycle is going to have to keep feeding the beast. And we have to decide, how much are you going to consume and how much can you consume and still stay in a healthy place. That's the let me.
Wow.
She owe her a check. Mel. You need to call in. Okay, because I done read your book. Just read your book. You're welcome.
It is fantastic.
But I mean, and I want to know, how are you all protecting your own peace? Because, you're in the middle. Gayleen, you are in
the fire.
You're in the fire. What do you do to protect your peace?
Well, first of all, my faith is deep. My faith is deep. I'm not going to let anything steal my joy. I understand the focus. You see fallout every day. You see what just happened on Facebook. Everybody's falling into, you can say whatever you want to say, whether it's true or not.
Yeah.
It's going to take us back to doing our own research and not depending on reading other people's opinions. And my focus now is just to make sure that in Virginia, we stay progressive and we stay true to who we are. Because I said before, this is about states' rights. And we have got to make sure that in this election coming up in November, that we turn out to vote. We had a special election the other day, and we maintained the House and the Senate. And I say that on the NAACP side because candidates were elected that mirrors our agenda. And on my political side, I'm saying we maintain it as Democrats. And we have to make sure that we turn out to vote in November to make sure that we get the executive office and we maintain the House. And so that's where my focus is right now. And all this stuff that's happening outside, it's going to be so much. And if you just try to keep up with what this man is doing, and he's going to do everything, I just can't. All I can do is just educate. I talk to young people. I go to cocktails and conversations, and I tell them the work that you do on the ground is wonderful, but you all need to come to Richmond with me. You need to know that policy is what's going to bring change. And it's not just about, well, I don't like this, or I'm working this, and people are doing good work on the ground. Don't get me wrong. But if you want real change, you got to understand how government works. And so that's where my focus is.
Don, you're on the ground level in terms of you're working with people every day. How are you protecting your peace?
The Lord. So, stuff comes at you every day. People with attitudes come at you every day. People who don't understand and need to be taught why certain things are the way they are, which goes back to understanding the process and how things work. It's very important for us to just be patient and have that conversation. But, I started a no stress life almost 25 years ago
Mm-hmm.
with my first cancer. So it was like, because stress brings on that condition in your body. And it was a history in my family too. But it's like, no, I can't do stress. So when people ask me, what do you do when you get, I said, I don't get worked up. I can't afford to get worked up. Because if I'm not healthy, then I can't,
You
I
can't
can't
do
help.
anything.
I can't
Right.
teach.
Can't
I
help.
can't keep going. And, you know, and I'm enjoying getting older, and I want to get older.
Right.
Older.
With another
Yeah, a
ER.
whole lot. That's right.
Two ERs.
I want this next quarter that I'm going into to be a good one and to be in it a long time. And so you do have to teach yourself. I don't want your stuff. And just because you come in here angry because you don't understand something, I'm going to woo you down, and then I'm going to teach you up. And then you're going to understand. And then we have to continue to do that with everybody that we talk to, because everybody's doesn't have the knowledge. And if you don't have the knowledge, then you can't engage. You can't realize that, no, that didn't even sound right. I need to go look that up somewhere else to make sure that I'm getting the right information.
Don't fall for everything that you hear.
Everything. You know, just like, you know, what you started off with all the things that T-Rump said he wants to do, then we can't.
That's what
Yes, she did. Yes, she did. Go ahead.
The spirit of Dr. Pretlow is in this place.
Is that, do you
The
gonna have,
spirit of Dr. Pretlow is in this place. She's right. That's what she said.
are you going to have to go to the lady and ask her if it's okay for me to say that? Okay, I'm okay with that one. Okay, I thought it was okay.
You good.
Go to the lady.
So all of those things, you know, when I hear things like that as an elected official, I'm going, but what's you going to do for the people? Because right now, that isn't anything for the constituents that voted you into office. What are you going to do for the people who voted you into office? And I want people who are listening to make sure, no matter how you voted, to pay attention to that. Because our elected officials are supposed to make our lives better in some kind of way. We know it takes a long time. Takes years to get legislation policy passed. Takes a long time to get it funded. But there is a process in that.
Exactly.
And we got to participate in that process. Allison.
These ALs taking you down today.
ALs are getting me today.
Yeah, I'm in a kind of selfish season right now. It's all about self-love. It's all about me finding things that fill me up. So I just look at it as a percentage, right? You know, and I'm like, oh, well, what else can I do? Or what else can I invite in my life, my space, or people that make me happy, that inspire me? I'm like obsessed with, you know, growth, evolution, and inspiration. So it doesn't hit the same because I got so many other exciting projects and things going on, new relationships. I just moved. You know, all these things. So it's like, dang, that's crazy. He crazy. I can't believe this. But girl, guess what? So this is what I got going on, you know. So I just try to have, you know, balance. And before that wasn't my approach. It was like, I got to pick up everybody's stuff. I got to fix stuff. I have to take on, like what Alvin said, like just take on, receive what was dumped on me. I'm like, oh no, that is not my problem. And for the people that voted, y'all got to deal with this is your mess that you got to do. I mean, obviously, we get some of we're all going to be impacted
all have to deal with it,
by it, but I got some exciting things, and so I like encourage the people on my team. I just hired some people recently, and I'm like, you know, what are your goals? Let's get obsessed and excited about, you know, what you're looking forward to in your life, and that will help you decrease the pain of everybody else's junk to me.
You know, it's interesting. I was honored. Thank you, Cova Biz Magazine. They did an article, and one of the things they asked me was, how do you, if you had a chance to make something different in your profession? And what I said was, you know, if I would buy advertising at the level of political ads. So you know how many political ads you saw all the time, to talk about the difference between news and opinion, because that is our problem. Part of our problem is people are spouting opinion, and people take that as gospel truth, and that's not the way that it is. So we got less than 4 minutes. I do want to talk to you or ask you out, guys, how should people approach the conversion of Martin Luther King's birthday, this federal holiday, and the inauguration at the same day from a Black community perspective. I mean, obviously we don't speak for everybody in the community, but what should people be thinking about as they approach this? Gayleen, we got 3 minutes, so everybody take 30 seconds and we can make it.
What should they be thinking about?
Yes. How should they be processing it?
Processing it is that, number one, is that voting. That's what you should be processing. You know, it's being turned out to vote and knowing what the issues are. I'm going to be in church. There's going to be a big church service on that day. And I am going to make sure that everything I do is going to be positive, and I'm going to be doing work in the community.
Okay. Dawn?
I'm going to wear black that day, and I'm going to celebrate Dr. King and everything that he taught me, and I'm going to continue to impart that information to others. I'm going to be the Dawn Hester drum major.
Mm-hmm. Allison?
I'm going to a Dr. Martin Luther King breakfast. Your girl going to eat. I'm networking, meet some people, and then when I get home late on that night, I'll see what happened with the craziness. That's how we processing.
Ms. Albion, I'm going to always give you the last word.
Not to mention the flags is half staff.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, President Carter, come on now.
I'm loving it.
Hey.
I've heard that so many times, too, and people find such joy in that. Mine would be that we need to be focusing on the content of our character. His words only matter if we're living the wisdom of his words. And the truth is that if, as Americans, we focused on the development, as Allison was talking about, personal growth, the content of our character, and then we voted based on the content of our leaders' characters, America would be in a completely different place. It is not just about competence. It is also about character. Because if we don't start voting character, which is the one thing you can't teach, you cannot train character. But if we don't start voting character, then we have said yes to everything that comes when people don't have it. When leaders have character, the decisions are truly about the people, and they are not about themselves. But the truth is, we put them in office. Everyone who's leading our nation, we were part of how they got there. The problem is not them. The problem is us. We have to work on our own development and then set the standard for what we accept as leadership.
Ladies, as always, thank you so much. Thank you for celebrating Carol. I really, really appreciate that. And protect your peace. And, you know, audience, thank you for spending an hour of your life with us. Now, you can listen to this show or any of our Another View programs on Spotify at whro.org/anotherview or wherever you go for your podcast listening pleasure. Next week on Another View, when to turn your side hustle into your next career. We should probably have you back on now.
Come back. That's my jam right there.
Absolutely, that is your jam. I know that is the truth. Our theme music is an original composition created especially for Another View by Jay Sennett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. Jordan Christie is our audio engineer, and Dr. Barry Graham answered our phones. I'm Barbara Ham Lee. Life is short, and we're about to face some challenging times. Protect your peace and hug your loved ones. And let's get together again next Thursday at noon for Another View.
Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, partnering with donors from all walks of life to improve southeastern Virginia through grants, scholarships, and leadership initiatives. Learn more at hamptonroadscf.org.